Louisiana's Attorney General Jeff Landry received a letter from the National Association of Attorneys General calling for all AGs to sign a condemnation of the January 6 Capitol protest. Landry, a former president of the NAAG himself, was appalled not by the request to condemn violence, but by the blatant hypocrisy of the organization and its ability to then sign up AGs on both sides without question. He tells OAN he refused to join his fellow AGs in signing the letter.
I'm not going to join my Democrat colleagues until we can agree that all violence against the government should be condemned and everyone should be held accountable. The left, burned minority businesses, set fire to courthouses, burned police stations, called for the defunding of law and order, and again, it's the hypocrisy of it all. We should be condemning all of that violence. We should be holding people accountable in each and every one of those situations. None of the violence is excusable.
During the summer Antifa BLM riots, leftists largely excused the violence as either necessary or justified.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And as for the National Association of Attorneys General themselves, says Landry, they were even worse in their reaction to the summer of leftist violence.
They were not only mostly silent, they were complicitly silent. This is the same group of people who want to defund the police, who didn't call out the assassination of our law enforcement officers during those troubled times. Now, all of a sudden, because the violence is on their doorstep, and they can basically attach it to the opposing political party or a political enemy, do they want everyone to join hands and call it out? What I'm saying is, let's join hands and call all of it out. Let's condemn all of the violence, and let's reinstore or install law and order across the board. Let's support our men and women in uniform and those that stand on that thin blue line, again, collectively.
Landry issued a public letter in response to the NAAG's call to action and was joined in separate letters of protest from the AGs of Texas, Indiana, and Montana, all refusing to sign the letter on grounds the NAAG's outrage over the Capitol protests seemed politically motivated in light of their hypocritical silence in past. But Landry says he was surprised only 4 states stood up.
I was extremely disappointed at many of my Republican colleagues who claimed to want to be able to find common ground and said that they would hold our Democrat colleagues to make sure that their actions matched their rhetoric, and then signed on to the letter. That certainly was disappointing.
CNN and other leftist organizations insist the BLM Antifa riots were justified, but condemn the election protests as criminal and illegitimate. Landry says this excuse is the true assault on freedom.
Well, if we eliminate the question of election integrity, we eliminate democracy, and that's an important part. Look, I think that everyone needs to do their part. Certainly those legislatures in swing states need to look at their election laws and strengthen those. And look, stronger election laws, more transparency can't be a bad thing. It can only be a good thing, because that's the pillars of democracy, is our election system. And in our republic, we require a fair, open, and transparent election system. Here's what I would submit. A question would be whether or not we could look at the protocols of election integrity when we sent election monitors, because over the decades, we've sent election monitors to foreign countries. And there was a protocol that they would look at to determine whether or not the election was fair. I would submit to you that probably America would fail that protocol at this time.
Louisiana was one of 19 states to challenge the election at the Supreme Court in December, a challenge that was dismissed, reportedly over Chief Justice Roberts' concerns the case would cause riots in D.C.